Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So today I got 8 budget-friendly CGC 9.8 comics to recommend, and even though these ones are budget-friendly, I still think they're great investment-grade books. So, these ones aren't going to be like cheap long shots or anything like that. I think, these ones are more great like bang-for-your-buck type of 9.8s, I would say. Alright, let's have a look here though. First one up is an Omega Men number 3 in the CGC 9.8. Yeah, this one's one of the cooler DC keys from the 1980s to buy. First appearance of Lobo, really cool cover, and I think there's some future potential with Lobo possibly. Maybe he cameos in a DC movie or something like that, and if that's a big hit, they could do a movie or a show or something. There's still, some future potential. There hasn't been Lobo and looking awesome on the big screen, I don't think. So, just a cool DC key, though, from the 80s that you could really enjoy as well. There's a 2053 CGC 9.8s in the blue label, so this one is popular, certainly a popular DC key, but still a pretty affordable price given the potential, I think. Over 2,000 of them in the blue label 9.8, 36.7%, the 9.8 ratio. So seeing a decent deal, I think, right now for this one in the 9.8 blue label is $285. I saw an auction, and I think it was in the last few weeks here. I think if you don't want to be as patient, around $300, and you might even be able to get this one maybe a little bit closer to $250. So that's kind of the fair value range. And so, yeah, I think for what you get with this book, it's a pretty budget-friendly 9.8, certainly in the current environment where there's a lot of hot 9.8 key issues right now. So Omega Men number 3 is one to consider. Next one here is a cool modern, definitely under the radar, but I think it's probably one to want. I'd find myself wanting it. An Absolute Carnage number 1, the Bagley variant cover, though I want to talk about specifically. This Mark Bagley variant cover was actually supposed to be the cover appearance for the first appearance of Carnage back in the 90s. This was the original cover, but the publisher didn't like it and they made him change it, and ended up being a great cover, a 361. But just with that backstory, I think this one's so collectible. Yeah, this is the hidden gem Bagley variant of Absolute Carnage number 1. There's a 97 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. There's about 90-something signature series as well. This one's pretty cool in the signature series. I found a price in both to 88.2% of all graded copies are 9.8. So typical modern, almost all of them are 9.8s. So the blue label saw one sell for $110. Yeah, I think this is a great budget-friendly one. Signature series, signed by Bagley, $189 I saw one sell for. I think this one's a great value right now. Given that backstory, I think it's got a chance to be really collected over time, and it's one that I've wanted. Yeah, there was 1 or 2 auctions where I don't know if I was outbid or if I just didn't bid on it, whatever happened, but this is one I've almost pulled the trigger on in the past. Alright, next one here, a great value, I think. Marvel Comics presents number 72. Yeah, this one's the Origin of Wolverine, and for Origin of Wolverine, given the price of this book, I think it's a cool one to want. This cover, I'm not too thrilled about myself. I don't really like the eye appeal of this cover. Barry Windsor Smith does the whole Weapon X kind of origin throughout these Marvel Comics Presents books. He's got some great covers in there. I like issue 79, I believe it is. I would say this 72 one, in my opinion, one of the weaker covers, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so I think a lot of people do like this one, and if you do like the cover, this is one of the better books at the price in the 9.8 to get. There's a 480 9.8s in the blue label for Origin of Wolverine is pretty great. 45.1% of all graded copies are CGC 9.8. It's not too bad, but nothing to really pay up for, so it does keep this one pretty affordable. Super interesting to see where this book is selling in the last 2 months. So I had saw one very recently sell in the last week, it was, for $99.99. It was in a buy it now from a seller, I think just a very attractively priced buy it now. I saw another one sell in the last month or so for $199.99. And also in the last month or so, it looks like one went for $299.99. So the full gauntlet of one selling for $100, one selling for basically $300, it looked like on eBay. Maybe that was one where it was a best offer, and eBay's sometimes not transparent about the prices. I think for this one though, under 200 is doable, so fits a budget-friendly one. Origin of Wolverine, and if you like this cover, this is, I think, one to target. All right, next one's a really cool one. And a kind of under the radar MCU X-Men speculation here. Alpha Flight number 33 in the CGC 9.8. A cool cover. It's first Lady Deathstrike. Yeah, when, what is it, Yuriko Oyama becomes Lady Deathstrike. And Lady Deathstrike, she was in, I think it was like X-Men 2 or something, like early 2000s X-Men movies. So, you know, she's a cool looking character. Maybe they bring her back in the MCU X-Men. She's certainly kind of a badass female villain. This one might be worth it. 249 9.8s in the blue label. 46.8%, the 9.8 percentage ratio. This is one I've talked about on some cold lists in the past, and I've saw some auctions for it pop up and was kind of tempted because, you know, in the last year or two, this is one where in an auction it was like $76 like a year ago, and you know, I remember seeing them, and I always thought it was a cool underfollowed one. But lately, though, one selling for $109, one for $120, and one for $180. I think it's heating up here a little bit with X-Men MCU speculation heating up. And this one's kind of, as I said, a better under-the-radar X-Men spec, possibly. And right around kind of, you know, 150 to 175 is maybe still making sense for this one. If you're an X-Men fan or a Lady Deathstrike fan, this is definitely the one to get. And one of 249 is not too bad at all. All right, next one here. It's a Batman 368. Yeah, one I do have. Let's take a look at this one here. I got an old case one. Batman 368, when Jason Todd officially becomes Robin. He puts on the suit, the Robin suit in 366. So that's maybe like Jason Todd first Robin. I love 366 too. I could have brought that one on and talked about that one, but I got that one in the 9.8 too. But 368 we'll talk about today. A great affordable one. I really think like all the Robin key issues, whether it's Jason Todd, Tim Drake, I think are great undervalued type of key issues to kind of buy now for a decent price. And I've been sort of saying that for a year or so. But 292 9.8s in the blue label, 38.4%. Is the CGC 9.8 ratio in the blue label. So, yeah, it keeps it pretty cheap. It's not like a super relatively rare one, but a one of 292 is not too bad. And you get that with these Batman comics. There's always way less than like an Amazing Spider-Man 9.8, you know, on the census. Good collector items. $165 seeing them sell for. Saw one sell for $182. Those were both in auctions. I think occasionally people, if they want this one now, they'll be paying around $200 for. Newsstand versions going for, I think, sort of $250 to $300 now would be probably a decent deal in the newsstand. Newsstand's heating up so much, but unaffordable Batman one that's certainly budget friendly, and I think, yeah, like $165, $182, some of the auction prices I think is good value right now. Okay, next one up here is a classic key. And the last three here getting a little bit higher in price, but I still think you do get a good bang for your buck. An Iron Man 282, first full appearance of War Machine. Classic cover on this one that's, I think, over time will be more and more collected, and I think that's what's sort of happening with this one. You know, there's certainly not like any new War Machine rumors or anything like that, not a War Machine show or anything. But this one's steadily rising in price, I think, and certainly with stimulus checks and the market being so hot, this one's went up in price when there's not really any like announcements or speculation, which I think is a good sign. 624 9.8s in the blue label, 39.7% of all graded copies are 9.8. So, you know, this one's not a super relatively rare one in the 9.8. It's always kept it pretty affordable. But some of the prices lately with the market heating up, certainly in the last 2 to 3 months here even, seeing a few saw one sell anyway for $565. So that's maybe not sounding as great of a bang for your buck. But if you go back about a month or two, I saw one sell for $325. And this was one, you know, a year or two ago, I always kind of wanted to target one in sort of the 225 to 275 range is usually where they sold. So now they're selling for 565. As I said, it's trending nicely, but I think for what you get, and it is a great classic cover, it's still kind of maybe budget friendly for what you get. So first full appearance of War Machine, hopefully like some selling for 565 now. Hopefully you can still get it under 500, and you know, some lulls if you're patient here. Wait for an auction, hopefully you get it under 500, I think would be a good price target. Okay, next one here is one I do have, a Wolverine number 8 in the CGC 9.8. Always really like this one. Anytime it's like Hulk and Wolverine in the same book or on the cover or whatever. It's a collectible one. Really nostalgic cover for me too. This is one I had this one in the raw when I was like, 7 or 8 years old, and always really liked the cover. So I targeted it specifically just to have it for that nostalgia kind of feel, but it's becoming a well-collected key, and anything that's cool with Wolverine and Hulk on the cover from the 80s, I think is pretty much becoming collected at this point. 488 9.8s in the blue label though. Not too bad, a 1 of 488, 39.8% to 9.8 percentage, so decent ratio, but nothing super relatively rare, and that's kind of the deal with most of these comics. Otherwise, they would be like super expensive if they were just had a tough like teens ratio or something. So Wolverine 8 though is trending well in price, and I grabbed mine 2.5 years ago. This is one of the earlier books I bought. And it was like $140 or something like that. And they had even sold for like $120 to $110. I remember I kind of wanted to be honest, so I was following this one for a while. But now, right now, completed listings in the last few weeks here, $310.58, $350. So just, pretty under the radar wanted issue, doing well in price in the last 2 years. Just gives you an idea of how far the market's gone. But yeah, this is so well collected. Wolverine and Hulk on the cover. I still think $310.58 is like a decent deal. Yeah, a little over $310 I think is a decent budget friendly one to think about if you're a big Wolverine and Hulk fan for Wolverine number 8. All right, so last one here, a good budget friendly one too that I think will be collected over time. Infinity Gauntlet number 1 in the CGC 9.8. Yeah, early 90s book here. George Perez cover, super classic. Kind of a lot of the inspiration for the MCU movies were from this Infinity Gauntlet series. So I think just over time, people love the MCU Avengers movies, and they're going to grow up in that and, want an Infinity Gauntlet collector item or a comic book collector item related to all those MCU Marvel movies. This one I think is it. It's a cool one and still pretty affordable. There's 1,672 9.8s in the blue label, 31.3% the 9.8 ratio. And this one, I think a good price is a few selling for kind of $225. I think if maybe you didn't want to be as patient, you want it now, like, $250 to $275 is, probably still somewhat fair, but a little bit higher end of fair value. Maybe you get it closer to $200 still. So this one's a budget friendly one that over time I think will be very well collected. Yeah, and especially if you have a long-term time horizon, I think Infinity Gauntlet number 1 in the 9.8 is a cool one at definitely a budget friendly price. Alrighty, so 8 of them there. I'll have a full list in the description below if you want to have a quick look. Yeah, just good to do some budget-friendly books, though, and yeah, these are, again, I think for what you're paying for, you get a lot with these ones, and those are always pretty good situations in whatever you're buying, whether it be comic books or stocks or whatever it might be. You look for that value, you're probably going to be better off. Alright, so hopefully you got some ideas, team. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate all the support, and I'll see you on the next one.